Say goodbye to 2025. The Sixers Talk podcast. Really happy to be with you here on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. Happy holidays, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Be safe. Have fun out there. Good to see you. Danny Pommells, Noah Levick steering you through what is happening in the world of Sixers fandom. And a lot going on, as usual, Noah, and some exciting basketball to talk about after a thrilling overtime win, 139-136. Your Sixers 17-14, sitting fifth in a tight Eastern Conference race right now. And it's the VJ Edgecom buzzer beater that everybody's talking about, not just here in Sixers Nation, Noah, but across the NBA, because this guy has ice water in his veins. I saw a montage of 4+ minutes on X Twitter earlier today of all the VJ Edgecombe clutch shots he's attempted this season. Not even the makes, just the attempts. A lot of makes were mixed in there. And it really centers around this 3-point shot, Noah. I mean, they beat the Grizzlies. This guy goes 5 for 10 from three. He scores 13 in the fourth quarter alone. A lot of buckets that he made where it could have been and ones, wasn't getting the calls, and it was very reminiscent of like the first 2.5, 3 years of Tyrese Maxey's career where he wasn't getting those same calls, and Edgecombe isn't getting those calls at the moment, but definitely a watershed moment for him. Hopefully he doesn't leave Joel Embiid hanging again on the celebration next time, but wow, Noah, what a game. Super exciting national TV audience, and they've snapped this 3-game losing streak. A great game to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's just right now one of the best clutch players in the league. You don't need to
Mm,
add for a rookie, just straight up. Rather recently, he also took the show on the road with that amazing debut at Madison Square Garden.
right.
And it's oftentimes getting it done on both ends, coming up with huge offensive rebounds. Just the all around impact is extraordinary in these big time moments. And it really struck me yet again last night that he hadn't been shooting the ball especially well lately. He was coming off a 3 for 16 game. He wasn't scoring very efficiently in Memphis either. And then just boom, this switch seems to flip and he's at his top level when his team absolutely needs him to be. And credit to Tyrese Maxey for making the correct play, giving the ball up and trust in Edgecombe to knock down an open shot because he's already proven when the game's on the line, there's a very high chance that he is going to make an open jumper. So yeah, as you noted, pretty important for the Sixers to get it done, especially since they were a bit shaky, a bit sloppy in their efforts to close the game and needed to go to OT. But the rookie doing his part to help them snap the 3-game skid.
Yeah, part of the reason they headed to OT was that 40-point performance where the second half, Ja Morant just went bananas. A couple of tough floaters, tough layups for him. And he's obviously a premier player and guard here in the NBA. But you could tell the Sixers really miss the defensive presence that Kelly Oubre brings, and it's not just his defense, but various aspects of his game that they could use. And him and Trendon Watford, though, big time cheerleaders on the sidelines, and it's just fun seeing those guys inching closer back. They have been practicing, but hopefully here on this road trip, maybe I would assume not the Dallas game, but maybe thereafter they'll be out there on the floor, but they kind of missed somebody to slow the ball down, and Morant was taking full advantage of that, but definitely hitting some tough shots over outstretched arms and contested layups and jumpers. But you mentioned Edgecombe and his relentlessness and the fact that he doesn't get this made or lose sight of how to stay connected to the game, even when the shot's not falling, and just something that so many young players out there can benefit from, because there's a lot of people who throw their arms up, where's my foul call, or I'm not getting ref in a fair way, or don't feel like they're getting a fair shake. But he just continues to have the mental fortitude to be able to stay focused, engaged in the game, and eventually it will come to you. Eventually those opportunities will come back your way. And what do you think it is about him that makes him so mentally connected, and he just seems to have that even keel of not getting too high or too low, even when he's hanging on the rim and getting the satisfaction of finally getting an explosive play, he still continues to stay grounded and connected to the game. Have you noticed anything about him that makes him have an edge there?
Yeah, I mean, I chalk up a lot of the maturity to just the perspective he's gained through his life experiences. Hearing him talk about his upbringing, he often says, like, this is just basketball, right? Like, there's bigger things in life, there's harder challenges that people face. And I think also a big part of it is that athleticism and finding the ball and coming up with winning plays has just always been pretty natural and easy to him. So even when it's not happening for an extended stretch, even when the jumper's off, he has a lot of deserved confidence that his track record suggests he's going to find some sort of way to turn things around. But absolutely, I think you're spot on in pointing out that the attitude is a huge part of his success and these clutch moments. And I think even on another level, he doesn't get discouraged when he's having a tough time defensively. As you noted, John Morant scored on him quite a bit, did so the possession before Edgecombe's game winning hoop. And he just said, "Okay, next play." I mean, and that's a lot easier said than done. And there are many older players who are not so good at shaking off disappointments or challenges on one end of the ball. It often bleeds into the other side of the floor. So, yeah, VJ Edgecombe really from day one has showcased this fantastic poise, maturity, well beyond his years. And I think more and more we're seeing that that's a tremendous strength of his and something that should serve him very well in his career.
You said athleticism in your answer, and the first thing that popped into my mind was that block on Jalen Wells. And I don't know why, of all the things that he did last night, but man, what a his defense is one thing when you're trying to guard a guy. Help defense is something totally different, and transition defense. So it just continues to impress me, his athleticism, the way he can be that same bouncy player from first to fourth quarters and overtime. And sometimes it looks like he's not breaking a sweat, but pretty cool to know the headband is here to stay because that has suddenly become his signature look. And it is a thick headband for sure. But a lot of heaping a lot of praise on the rookie, and we got a great rookie matchup running it back with the Mavericks. Cooper Flag, VJ Edgecombe, number one overall pick, third overall pick. So a lot of reasons to tune in New Year's Day to check out what this team has to offer. But let's stick with this game. 17 different starting lineups for this team, though, so far this season. Tied for third in the NBA. Remember, the record they broke last year was 53. Was a number?
50 plus, I want to say 54.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah, but
All right.
that's something. They're not number one, but they're near the leaderboard
Yeah.
as you know. Yeah.
Part of this is the fact that the big three here had been 0 for heading into last night, 0 for 4. They're now 1 for 4 with Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey in the lineup. But I feel like they Nick Nurse kind of staggered Maxey and Embiid in a way that kind of caught maybe some people's eye. And you got them out there to start the game together. You kind of stagger them a bit in the second and third quarters, but they both end up with 34 points. They're both getting to their shots and their opportunities. You see the highlight reel play of the between the legs MB pass to Maxey and the catch and shoot three. And we know Joel Embiid is great with that dribble handoff. That it's just something that he just does really well, and it seems like he enjoys that. Going back to the JJ Redick days. Um, did you see something last night from the big three? I mean, it's tough to. I mean, they scored 72 points in the first half, both teams. So it wasn't a lot of defense, but there definitely was a lot of scoring as each of these teams almost combined for 280 points. But did you see anything that gave you a feather in your cap, progress, or not a fantastic shooting night from Paul George, not even a fantastic shooting night for Joel Embiid, but the results were there and they seem to be able to take a punch and give a punch in that game, and where the Memphis crowd was really behind them. It was just an exciting game all the way around. And NBC has just really been nailing it with the broadcasts, and just a great time to have the NBA. It's a ton of exciting games we've seen on these national. I couldn't stay up for the Lakers game. I had a bunch of work to do. I didn't get home like 2:30 last night because the Flyers were on in Vancouver, and it was a late night. But have you seen anything from the big three that you'd like? Oh, I like what I like the changes or the adjustments or the progress they've made here on the court together.
Biggest for me last night was just Joel Embiid. I thought looked great physically, probably the best he has this year. I don't think that's a stretch to say. He played his most
Hmm.
minutes of the year by a significant margin. I believe he hit 38 minutes.
2 assists shy of a triple double.
Yeah, season high in assists. The two-man chemistry with Maxey was brilliant when they did get an extended stretch together in that second quarter. And I thought Embiid moved relatively well defensively. He had a little stint in that second period where he was rising pretty high to block
Hmm.
shots and hustling, out to the perimeter and back to the inside to protect the rim. And
Yeah, the lateral movement definitely was there. Yeah.
yeah, I thought all of that was positive and in my book. And sure, like the chemistry and the nuances of how they play together matter, but Joel Embiid's physical ability to one be on the court and two look something like he did at his best is paramount for this ball club. So that was the biggest new looking thing to me last night. I'm sure it is a nice relief for them that they won't have to continue to be asked about why have you guys still not won as a trio this year. Though I don't think there's necessarily a ton to read into that. And yeah, as Paul George is concerned, he's in a bit of a downturn right now with the shooting. You assume it'll turn back around the other way for him eventually, but reality is that does make it a little harder to win games when he's 6 for 17 from the floor. Had an off night in Chicago as well. Of course, the Sixers value what he brings to the table defensively and the versatility, but the best version of this team is one where he's knocking down shots at a high rate. But yeah, I think worth highlighting that Joel Embiid did fade a little bit production wise late in the game, but I still think he looked perfectly fine as he was reaching those 38 minutes. And I thought there were a lot of encouraging signs as far as how he was moving and also how he was flowing with his co-star Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, I think we should enjoy this stretch of Embiid that we're getting. We know just from personal experience covering this team and watching this team how quickly it can fall apart with the big fella with the nagging injuries or the surprising things that pop up. Get well soon. Nikola Jokic, he's out with a hyperextended knee for multiple weeks on a weird situation under the basket. Like a guy's kind of stepped on his foot, but I mean, who knows? It can all fall apart so quickly. But is he back? NBA Central wants to know. They tweeted out Joel Embiid's last 5 games. Noah, you know them well: 34, 10, and 8 against the Grizzlies, 31, 5, and 1 in Chicago, 27, 6, and 4 against the Nets, 22, 14, and 2 against Atlanta, 39, 9, and 3 against Indiana. Is he back? Is he back? Noah is the question.
To me, he's not the player he was when he's MVP, but he's getting closer, I think. And
Okay.
yeah, as I noted last night, in my eyes, was just the best he has moved thus far this season. And sure, there's a lot to his game outside of movement. There's the jump shooting touch, there's the anticipation, there's the rim protection, there's the gravity. But movement is obviously very helpful in the game of basketball, and I think he's absolutely seemingly moving in the right direction as far as the mobility is concerned. So that's a big deal. And yeah, some consistency with the production is nice. I think the next step, of course, is consistency with the availability. That's what everyone's hoping for. But definitely a good sign, regardless, that he's getting to the foul line. I think regularly as of late, he's scoring, at that mark you noted, and yeah, he's chipping in on both ends of the floor. At least last night, that was a positive as well.
Yeah, things can be better. There's more meat on the bone. He missed a couple of those bunnies right in front of the rim, and you just that's a part of his game that never quite that Shaq. I'm the biggest body out here. I'm just gonna go up and I dare you to stop me. Like I'm gonna try to throw the ball in the rim type of thing. Like he's right in front of the basket, gets a little, tries to tip it in. The word Moses Malone was used last night on one of his putbacks and opportunities where he kept tapping it and ended up getting the bucket. But some little moments here and there where you want him to be maybe a little stronger, maybe a little more assertive, but he's still one of the elite big men in the NBA. There's really no doubt about that. And hopefully, as a big three, they can continue to have some consistency and some results, on the court here. Like I mentioned, fifth in the East in a tight race, and it's going to take some fortitude, some stick to itiveness for them to keep and hold on to that fifth spot. But let's take a time out here in the Sixers Talk podcast. Of course, we're going to talk about Tyrese Maxey and the NBA All-Star voting, and as well as get some updates here on the thoughts on Kelly Oubre and Trendon Watford that I alluded to earlier. But we love and appreciate Wilmington University for what they've done for us. Our title sponsor, Wilmington University, your dream is our mission. We can help you get the skills you need for the career you want. Learn more at wilmu.edu. Tyrese Maxey, number 0. And man, he just does it with a smile, Noah. I mean, he hits this ridiculous double clutch leaning 3-pointer at the halftime buzzer and just had this incredulous look on his face and the smile and this just baby face, unblemished grill. And he just runs back to the locker room. It's like, man, come on. How can you not like this guy? But second to Giannis Antetokounmpo, Noah, in the NBA All-Star voting results that were first released. This is fan voting. 25% media voting helps the decision, as well as 25% from the players. So this is not the end-all, be-all by any means. Just the first onset of the voting, and I think it was 72,000 votes separates him, Jalen Brunson, and I think Donovan Mitchell was the other player that was right there. But all said, Noah, there is one thing to be an all-star, which Tyrese Maxey is, one-time all-star. There's something different to be an all-star starter. And no guard has started in the NBA All-Star game since Allen Iverson for the 76ers team. So anytime you are in the same breath with number 3, I'm sure Tyrese Maxey will take that. And we'll talk about the All-Star stuff, but bro, I saw watching that Grizzlies game, and just from the Maxey we've seen this season, it's a little bit of Steph Curry in his game, man. Like the 3-point range, that a lot of guys have done that, but the way he was coming off some of those screens and curls and the consistent movement and the catch and shoot nature, it was, you know, say what you want, and I am a big Steph fan, and he is one of my all-time favorite players. But Maxey and the fluidness with which he is playing on offense, it is just remarkable. And the voting for the NBA All-Star contest be what it is. I do not know how, if you're an NBA fan or you enjoy basketball, that this guy is not on your radar and like must see TV in a lot of ways. And he just has very few off shooting nights, and even on those off nights, he still does something you might not see. And I'm curious what you think about the All-Star voting. Curious what you think about just what my comparison there and what I noticed. And this, I'm not, I don't have I'm not the guy who, I'm sure other people think the same thing. But what are you thinking, Noah?
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from. I think it really stands out to me with the exceptional shot making and transition. And I think Tyrese Maxey obviously has a little more than Steph Curry in the speed department, but I do think they're comparable just in the sense that when the defense is on its heels, you are confident they're going to find a way to get a shot. Like it when that defense is backpedaling, it's just like, oh boy, this is probably going in.
Right.
That's how you feel about Tyrese Maxey at this point. And yeah, I think the deep range has been a huge asset, something he added to his bag a few years back, and has served him very well in complement to his speed. And yeah, I just think more and more he's developed this understanding of how he's going to be guarded, how he can counter all that. Um, and yeah, I mean, Steph Curry is very lofty company, but I think purely, as a shot maker and as someone who can find ways to fire him up in the open floor and knock him down from pretty much anywhere. Tyrese Maxey's getting there. He's definitely made incredible progress over the past few years. Just as far as the jump shooting, and as far as that sense that he is really a threat to score in any way and anywhere on the floor. I think it's notable too that like a couple of years back, he was weak as far as driving to his left hand, and there were certain obvious aspects of how you would defend him on the scouting report. And now I don't think it's so clear outside of you try to bother him with physicality, but now he's better at drawing fouls. You and I think also he's developed a sense of okay, when the defense guards me tightly, there's more chances to just blow by and find driving angles and hit open teammates. So more and more, he's become just a polished offensive player
Hmm.
who understands what defenses are going to try to target, and then how he can respond to whatever's thrown his way. So yeah, definitely not an absurd comparison. I think in certain specific areas as far as where I'm sitting, and yeah, he's not disrespected as far as the fans are concerned. I think number 2 in the East, is remarkable. I was not expecting to see him quite that high, but I
Right.
also think the raw production, leading the league in minutes per game, I believe he's 3rd in scoring, top, 15-ish in assists, top 10 in steals. There's a lot of statistical production you can point to if you feel he's one of the best few players in the league. I think it's a hard case to argue that he's extraordinarily valuable and one of the best players in this conference. So looks like he's on track for a starter nod, barring something really surprising with how the media and the players vote. Does seem like the fans are pulling for Tyrese Maxey and not just in Philadelphia.
And don't forget, this is that new USA versus the world format. So how that will all play out, we all are waiting to see exactly how successful that is, and curious to see if Maxi really lets it fly whenever he does get on the court, as opposed to acquiescence to maybe some of the all star players who have been doing it for a little while longer. But here we are, Noah. 31 games into the season. Um, Kelly Oubre, Trendon Watford getting healthier. Just quickly, they have been both practicing, but not cleared to go. Or what? Can you give us an exact update on what's happening with those guys?
Yeah, so the official word from the Sixers is that they've been reintegrated into team activities starting with Monday's practice. So they practice Monday. They'll presumably be back out there whenever the Sixers, next have a practice. They've both been doing individual stuff, I think, for a week or two now. We've seen them shooting jumpers pregame, doing some individual workouts off to the side. So no exact timeline provided for an expected return, but it does seem clear at a minimum that there haven't been any setbacks, that both are legitimately making good progress. And yeah, I don't think it's unrealistic to expect one or both of those guys to return in the next week or two. I think based on how it's trending.
And quickly, not quickly, but you can take as long as you want. But before we get out of here, I wanted to pose a question to you that someone asked me last night. We were watching the game, and one of the producers said to me, "How you feel about Quentin Grimes now? And do you wish he was signed to that long-term deal?" And it gave me a quick pause because earlier in the season, I felt a lot higher on Grimes and his production. And man, like Sixers missed the boat. They should have, tried to get him to a friendly deal. I don't quite feel that way as much now, though, as the person asking the question. So I realized that my thoughts on him had changed. I would definitely have been happy and content with some type of 2 year, whatever that would have been, 35 million, 40 million, 2 year, whatever that number of money worked out to, 2 years, 26 million, whatever it was. Um, I would feel less inclined to have him on like an $80 million, $100 million deal. But and that's not necessarily an indictment on him or how he's played. It's just more or less I just want maybe bigger, stronger, longer type of more of those. You look at the kid Coward last night um for the Grizzlies. I like, oh my gosh, like more players like that would seem like more fun for the 76ers. And like I said, it's not an indictment on Quentin Grimes or how he's played because I really appreciate his shooting. Definitely had some clutch makes and great decision making and playmaking. But I'm curious where you are, and he's on this 1 year restricted contract, no stray clause, no trade clause for him. Um, would you feel better if he was under contract, or do you feel like the Sixers made the right move and trying to allocate, that money elsewhere?
Yeah, it looks reasonable to me. I don't want to be too prisoner of the moment because the
Right,
reality is he's probably had his worst 5 or 6 game stretch of the season, just as far as the shooting and the efficiency. I will say it's increasingly seemed like whether he has a good or bad game hinges on how he shoots, which is not great. The Sixers
right,
want him to be a legit two-way player. I don't think he's been great as a playmaker this year. He's had certainly some tunnel vision moments where he seems very score first in his approach. But look, overall, he's been good for a six man, if not very good. I mean, he's a guy who can give you microwave scoring. Nick Nurse talks a lot about how he loves his explosiveness and aggression as a downhill driver. I agree with that. And yeah, I think when he gets out as a shooter, everyone feels better about what he brings to the table. But look, I think number one that Tyrese Maxey has become a clear cut superstar, and number two that VJ Edgecombe's been one of the best rookies in the league. That just changes the whole guard picture for the Sixers. I think everything else feels a little bit less important than
right.
having.
Even Jared McCain seems less important.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
weird is that?
it's a little strange. So I think those two guys, Maxey and Edgecombe, without question, look like core pieces and ultra important young players for this team. That said, I think if there are one or two other guards in house that you can keep as part of this core and who can mesh nicely with this group, that would be great. And I think that remains an open question whether Jared McCain is one of those guys, whether Quentin Grimes will perhaps be one of those guys if he opts to return here as an unrestricted free agent. And I think, yeah, how the rest of the year plays out will go a long way in how the Sixers sort of chart their path for the future with some of those complementary guards. But I think it looks increasingly obvious that Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, that's who you want to be your starting backcourt for many years to come. And TBD on what the rest of the guard picture looks like moving forward.
Well, some fantastic games coming up on the slate for the 76ers. We'll start with the Mavericks and the Knicks and see where things go from here. A big win. They needed that victory last night to kind of get them off the snide and keep this road trip positive. And Edgecombe coming through money when it mattered most. What a big shot. Tyrese Maxey's doubled. Maxey passes to the open man, and he drills this three with 2.2 seconds left. So fun game if in case you missed it. And hopefully the fun continues into the Mavericks and the Knicks game. And it will be 2026, Noah. 2026 here coming up. Are you a resolutions guy or do you hang your hat
I
on
am a
this?
big resolutions guy. Have some per clan, but the official list is not created yet. But I do like
Okay.
a nice resolution. Yeah. How about you?
I like to start fresh. I do like a fresh start. Just to challenge myself to be a better person, better version of myself, better dad, husband, friend, all those things. Offers a nice reset. And I'm also a reflecting guy. I like to think back on what happened, some things where I could do better. And I'm not trying to be super cerebral, like I'm in here, like in some, dark room meditating or any of that stuff. But um, I do second guess, some decisions and, think about how I could have done better and, look to just improve and, like I said, be a better friend, in adulthood, especially, you kind of people move around and separate and go their different ways. So just to make the conscious effort to keep the friendships going or to connect with people or to visit or things like that. So yeah, I definitely think that it deserves some energy toward a new year, reflecting on what has happened and thinking about what's to come. So, much love, Noah. Always appreciate seeing you and spending some time. Shout out to our producer today, Tom Feiner. He's taking his kids to Disney on Ice. So let's wrap this up so he can, get in the mix with the fam. And happy New Year, much love, happy holidays to everybody out there. We'll see you next time on the Sixers Talk podcast. For the man Noah Levick, check out his work on NBC Sports Philadelphia.com. I'm Danny Pommells. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.